welcome to Ready and Willing podcast, and our next edition is a special one. We've got a bit of a royal touch here today, and we've got Martin Ainscough, who's the High Sheriff of Greater Manchester. Martin's well known in the area, local businessman, a guy who funded with other people the youth zone and lots of other things that Martin's been involved in. I'm sure we're going to talk a bit about that. We've also got Melanie Bryant with us today, who's the DL, which is a Deputy Lieutenant, and these two people are the King's representatives in this area, so we're very blessed that we've got kind of the royal connection. Probably go over to you, Martin, if you can explain what the High Sheriff role is and what does it mean for people who don't know.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. I've never been described as part of the royal family before, but I'm delighted to be promoted. The High Sheriff role is a very historic one. It goes back over 1,000 years, and it goes back to the days before, obviously, government and parliament and that sort of thing. And back in the day, the High Sheriff was the King's representative in each particular county, particular responsibilities for law and order, for taxation, so he would attend hangings, etc. So most of them weren't very popular, as you can imagine. And it was a very, very powerful role, and you reported directly to the King. Today, it's a ceremonial role. We are still appointed by the King. And it's principally, the way I would describe it, is about shining a light on all the good work that's going on in the communities, in the whole of Greater Manchester, working with lots of different ethnicities and working with lots of different charities, you know, just shining a light on the great stuff that goes on out there. And on behalf of the King, an opportunity to go and to thank them for all that they do for the community.
That's brilliant, thank you. I think that sums it up really well. Melanie, a DL, a Deputy Lieutenant. Can you explain what that means?
Yes, of course. Again, nice to be promoted, but we're not actually part of the royal family. The King's...
You will be after this.
Oh, excellent. Well, I'll be part of the Ready and Willing royal family, obviously. So the actual King's representative in the county of Greater Manchester is Diane Hawkins. She is known as the Lord Lieutenant. And she is allowed to have a number of deputies, and it's based on population. So she has roughly 60 deputies in Greater Manchester, and I'm one of the ones that is here in Wigan. So if there is a piece of work or an event that Diane can't go to herself, then she can ask a deputy to step in for her. So it sounds very glamorous, and I know you see us a lot when we're out at the events, whether it's Martin, myself, or our colleagues, also based in Wigan and Lee, who are Emily Hyam, Mike Wormsley, Steve McGuirk, and Sanjay Mulchand, who you haven't met yet.
No,
he's
I know Sanjay.
You know Sanjay?
Yeah.
Yep, our newest DL. So you see us at all the ceremonies, like the Citizenship ceremonies, Armed Forces, you see us at Pride and all of those kinds of places. What you don't see, but I know you know all about, is all that work that goes on in the background. So all the work we do on promoting the King's Award, so the King's Award for voluntary service with community groups and honours, and the King's Award for enterprise as well. And there's a lot of work, as you know, that goes on behind the scenes.
I think probably going back to you, Martin, a little bit, as Natsy's a businessman of Ainscough. We'll all remember the Ainscough cranes with your name on it. I've always wanted my name up there, so if you can put my name on one of them cranes, I'll be quite happy.
Organise that.
So Natsy, a very successful businessman, big family, but always put stuff back into the community, the youth zone, lots of other stuff that I think you don't talk about, where people don't know what you've done. And actually doing this role now, he's seeing the community and having to do that. So thanks for what you've done, especially the youth zone bit. And you're still involved to this day, where I know you was involved with Dave Whelan and Bill and other people. So what gives you that satisfaction, really, the youth zone bit and the other bits, really?
I think, like most people in life, or certainly a lot of people in life, you know, I'm from a family of 9 children. I lived in a little village in Wrightington. I wasn't a confident child. I wasn't clever. I really struggled with school. Didn't really know what I was going to do as a career. But I was very fortunate that my father had a scrap metal business, and he gave me the opportunity to go and work for him when I was 15. No qualifications at all, and thankfully, something inside me sort of, you know, had the bug to try and grow that business. and then myself and two of my brothers set a crane hire business up in the early 70s, and that sort of grew and ended up being the biggest crane business in the UK. And it was just, fantastic to sort of get some satisfaction in life, to sort of to have some form of achievement. But I've always believed, because I don't think you ever forget the way you felt when you were young, when you weren't successful. As I say, I actually came to this college for 12 months on a day release doing a certificate in office studies. Gosh, that's a long time ago. I don't think I passed, actually. And as a nervous kid at the end of the day, and you should never forget that. So going on to sort of the youth zone and that, I'm a massive believer that, so many young people have confidence issues. We all know that if you're a good footballer, if you can sing, if you're clever, you'll usually get through your early stage life relatively happy. But so many of us don't have that, you know what I mean? And we struggle, and that's why I was so keen to get involved with Wigan Youth Zone with Dave Whelan and Bill to give kids an opportunity to go somewhere where they would be met with friendly faces, given opportunities to do things, and more than anything, build confidence. I'm a massive believer that most things start and end with confidence. So that's the reason why I got involved in charity work, is I was fortunate to have a modicum of success in the business, and that allowed me to do some great charity.
So we're 10 years down the road with the youth zone now, is it 10 years?
You are? Yeah, we've been open actually 12 years now.
12 years, so naturally I remember when it was open and you were there. So forgive me for saying this, but when people come in, entrepreneurs, and put cash in, usually it's there, we've done it, and away we go. 12 years later, you're still there, you're still behind the scenes doing the work, but not actually about funding it, is actually being that day-to-day running. And probably just for the camera a little bit is, when you said you came here on day release, you wasn't in prison, it was from school or college or something.
No, it was I was actually working in the scrapyard.
Although a day release, we better correct that.
Day release, yeah. My dad, or my uncle, who was his partner, and we were a big family, decided that I must have shown some sort of degree of being capable of working in the office, so they put me on this certificate in office studies.
Great.
And that's the total sum of my qualifications, but I'm not convinced I've passed it anyway.
Yeah. And here we are today, back in the college.
Absolutely, love it.
Different environment than what it's been.
Love it.
It's a massive organisation. This college,
fabulous,
we're around about nearly 10,000 students in here, so it's massive. Great for the town and all the stuff. And I know you've been involved in the UTC. Yeah. Just moving to you, Melanie, about the community work and all the groups that we have around. And actually, you email me all the time about, and the Cavs. So if you can explain a little bit about the Cavs, what that is. It used to be the Quavs, didn't it? Now it's the Cavs.
It was. So Quavs would have been the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service. Now we have a King. It's Cavs. So we all had to get used to saying that. King's Award for Voluntary Service. So it's the highest recognition for a voluntary group that you can possibly get. It's the equivalent of an MBE, so like an honour for a voluntary group. And there's only about 230 groups across the whole of the UK who receive this award every year. It's open to any group that's been going at least 3 years, and where at least half of the group is volunteers, not paid staff. And the group has to be driven by those volunteers. So it can't be that they're working under the direction of paid staff. They've got to be responsible for deciding what the group does and how they do it. So I'm absolutely delighted. I know you've had the email already, but we have just had the announcement of this year's winners. 231 across the country. 3 are in Wigan. Yay! Wow. And the 3 are the Astley and Tildesley Cycling Club, the St Joseph's Players, and then Wigan Stars, which is one of our... It's very close to here and is one of our learning disability groups, which I am very, very proud to say that I did the assessment for. They were wonderful.
I don't want to raise you up too much on that pedestal, Melanie, because I don't need to do that.
No, don't do that, please. No, there's a long way to fall.
Yeah, but I think going back probably 5-6 years when we first met, maybe longer than that, I don't know, it seems like a long time since I met you.
Yeah,
you probably just wore on me a bit. I would say Wigan was unrecognised within the King's Honours as Queen's then. And initially it takes, because it's a bit of work for you, but it's a bit of work for groups to fill out the forms and explain what they do. So a lot of people are busy and think, I don't know. I would say now that you've raised that bar, that people know, want to get that honour for that and really recognise it. The one at Aspel that you came along to, Martin, where I spent an hour with you, and then I left you with volunteers, which I know as Kathleen probably talked to you for another
Absolutely,
2 hours. Well, you bought bacon butty and you didn't have a chance to eat it because you couldn't get a word in. But how much it means to them, really surprised me is not the right word, but I think people are building on like Wigan Stars, like you say. They would have never done anything like that. They just do it. They've done it for 20-odd years or 30-odd years and just gone along with it. So thanks for that, because I think you've raised that bar. And whether people are really into the Royals or whether they're not, that award really means something to people.
It really does. And I mean, apart from just the sheer joy that you see on the volunteers' faces when they realise that, they want to imagine being one of 231 organisations in the whole of the United Kingdom where you've been told you are the best of the best. So apart from that, it's also the very practical side, because if you have a King's Award for voluntary service, then every funder and every commissioner knows the level of due diligence that has gone into that. And for anyone who doesn't know, although groups are nominated, there's then a huge assessment process that myself and my fellow DL colleagues, Martin and I do this every year, go through. And it typically takes us probably about 3 days to do that for each group. So all of those people who are looking at giving them funding or looking at giving them contracts to deliver all know that that's happened. So they can put it on their letterheads, they can put it into their grant applications, they can proudly display it within their building. That lets them know, everybody know that they really are the best of the best.
So I think the proof in the pudding there is actually a couple of groups I've worked with recently who got the King's Award, had applied for grants going back and got them failed. And then automatically, no, not automatically, but they've got it, because I think it gives them that recognition of doing that, and they can't wait to get it on the red in notepaper, don't they?
They can't. And to get that trophy up there as well. And of course, they get to go to the palace.
That's right.
So two of the volunteers get invited to one of the royal garden parties at the palace. So that's really special too.
Can I just add to that? As Melanie has explained, in the Wigan area, we have about 6 deputy lieutenants, including myself. And I have to say that Melanie is our chair of this area, and God bless her, puts an enormous amount of effort into making these things happen. She is without doubt our cheerleader, and we rely on her because she's considerably younger than me and much better at organising things, etc. But no, credit to Melanie. A lot of, as you said, these charities and organisations sometimes need a little chivying along because they don't know the system, they don't know how it works. And Melanie is very, very good and very, very dedicated in terms of working with schools and charities, etc., to give them the best possible opportunity. And I think it's appropriate to give her total credit for that. She works a lot harder as a deputy lieutenant than I do. So,
And I nag you a lot.
And she does nag me a lot, which I don't
and me
mind.
as well.
And you.
Which I don't mind because I need nagging,
I'm chief nagger, definitely.
And my wife nags me a lot as well.
Judith and I are kindred spirits, we know this.
But I think we've got so many groups in the borough, and I think talking to you guys, and I've done this podcast with a few people, and we all say this, and when people listen to this far away, we're very grounded in Wigan, aren't we?
Yeah.
About who we are, what we are. No matter whether you're a successful business person or a politician, we're all on that level with people because as soon as you raise your head above that parapet, people chop it off in Wigan, don't they? And the groups, I'm humbled every day with the groups. When people volunteer day in, day out, like you've been to... Like you said, what Melanie does, but also I go around with Melanie to some of the groups, and you go on your own as well. So it's not only just doing it on paper; it's actually seeing those groups, isn't it, and what it means to them.
Yeah, we go and help them. I mean, as you know, we are constantly looking. It never ends that looking, does it? So, although the portal opens in September and ends in December, we keep on looking through the whole year, so they're ready to go as soon as that portal opens again.
And I think one of the things for me, and that's how I went with Roy Wood when Roy got his BEM to Gorton.
Yes.
And I know you did some work with Andrew and everybody behind the scenes on that. He's the prestige of Gorton Monastery but actually hearing Wigan's story there as well. And you can see people from around the areas going, this is fantastic, because it's just something different. And he just wrote a boot, Roy. So
Has he?
Yeah. Fight the good fight. Yeah,
I'm so pleased to hear it. He's our wrestler, but it was a particular form of wrestling as well, isn't it? It's only very unique to the
catch wrestling.
That was it. Catch wrestling, unique to the mining town.
Right, really.
Yeah, it originated here in Wigan.
And we just did a boot launch in Aspel with him. I'll probably diversify.
What is it called again? Sorry.
Fight the good fight. So,
fight the good fight, everybody. Buy the book.
Yeah, that's it. So we did this launch, and Roy's good at speaking. He's better than me at speaking. He can speak a lot longer than me if that's possible. But I did the intro, then Andrew spoke about the book, and Roy said, I've only got a few words. So 10 minutes later, he was still talking about it. And he trained Japanese fighters who went to Japan, training them. But he said, I also had to train him into speaking of Wiganese. He said, I didn't know I was successful. He said, but when I was leaving, and he mentioned the guy's name from Japan, and he went, how'd you say goodbye in Japanese? And he said, this guy from Japan said, I'll see there.
I'll see there.
He said, so that worked.
Absolutely.
But just like typical Wigan guy, Roy's a businessman, he was going back. But still, you've got that instilled in people, what you do. What's next, Martin? The High Sheriff, is that a year role?
Yeah, the High Sheriff is a role you do for 12 months. So I was installed in Wigan Town Hall in April this year, and I finish my role in April next year. So I've got about 4 or 5 months left to fit in as many engagements as I possibly can throughout Greater Manchester. I have to say that the one thing that the High Sheriff role has given me is access to lots of organisations that, in all honesty, I'm from a little village in Wigan, and when I was a lad, we had Catholics and non-Catholics. We didn't see anybody of a different colour. I never didn't know anybody who was Jewish, Muslim, whatever. You know what I mean? And now I'm exposed to and invited to all these fantastic community groups that are working so hard. We all know about the tragedy where the people got killed at the synagogue recently, and there's so many people out there and organisations really working, trying to keep a lid on that, because inevitably, even though the hostilities are over in Israel and Jerusalem and Gaza, etc., there's a lot of bitterness sometimes, and they're working very, very hard to keep peace amongst all the different religions and all the different ethnicity. And another thing, and I'm sure that Melanie can talk more about it, is, we do citizenship ceremonies. And there's all this talk at the moment about immigration, and we all accept we can't just accept thousands and thousands of people illegally all the time. However, let's not talk about them all as though they're all terrorists, because they're not.
Dead right.
99.9% of them are the sort of people you would want working for you, living with you, or whatever. And you get to meet some wonderful people when you're doing citizenship ceremonies. And, I really, it's very upsetting to see all the, the flags going up for the wrong reasons. None of us have a problem with, the Union Jack going up. It's a football match or some sort of royal occasion or whatever. But when it's actually going as an anti-protest rather than something that's good, I think that's very disappointing.
Do you want to touch on that, Molly?
Citizenship ceremonies, definitely. Love citizenship ceremonies, not least of which because 20 years ago, instead of sitting at the front of the room hearing our wonderful new citizens swear their allegiance to the Crown, I was sitting with their family and friends watching my husband do it.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, you see, people forget that.
Yeah.
So my husband came over from Jamaica when he was 12. And he got his citizenship shortly after we got married. So lived here already for 30 odd years already, by then. So it's always very special to me because I know all the work that goes into that, not least of which I'm going to hold my hands up and say, I could not pass that citizenship test unless you actually did the studying. And I did study for it for 6 months with him. So I'm very proud because he's very dyslexic too. So actually passing the test was a really big deal. So I love that. That's one of my favourite duties that we do as a deputy lieutenant. But equally, I love the honours. That's my thing at the moment. And so I was really fortunate back in New Year 2012 to receive an OBE myself. And I just didn't think that people like me living here in Wigan got honours. I didn't think anyone had any idea what I'd been doing. And mine was for services to social enterprises and to women's enterprise. And so being me, because I live in Wigan, I rang them up and I said, I don't understand how I got this. Can you tell me how does somebody get an honour? And so they explained to me and they said, oh, by the way, we've got some vacancies on the honours committee.
So you sign yourself up.
Sounds like you might be really good at this. Would you like to apply? And I went, yeah, sure. So it's a voluntary role. So I said, yeah, of course I will. So I had to go through this really horrible application. I've got it all changed now, by the way. It's a lot easier. But I had to go through a horrible application process. I then had to go to London, to Whitehall, and I was interviewed by the head of the civil service, Sir Bob Kerslake, and a knight and a dame. That was scary. But they did accept me. And so part of my thing has been making sure that absolutely everybody knows that anybody can nominate anybody for an honour, and it's a really simple online process. And the youngest person to ever receive an honour was just 9 years old, which is why we also set up our schools programme. So I run a big schools programme across Greater Manchester on behalf of the lieutenancy with help from my colleagues, which many of our schools are involved in. And they get to learn about the honours system, and then they get to write nominations either for themselves or for someone that they think would be great to get an honour. We have a lovely investiture ceremony for our primary schools when we give them medals, and our secondary schools do a presentation event. But the number of kids that now come up to me in the street and go, you were in my school. I can't escape. I did a citizenship ceremony last month, and 2 children in the audience came up to me and said, you came into my school. They both go to different schools. It was great.
It's a great feeling, that, in terms of
a really great feeling.
Just touching on Marty, I mean, the immigration issue, we're not going to go into that because it's not that kind of podcast, but you've always been open and honest with your views about stuff, the flags, immigration. I always say there's good and bad in everybody, no matter who you are, what you are. So it's good for you to talk about that. But the day after the stabbing in the synagogue, I spoke at the Holocaust Memorial. Now, on that day, people were ringing me up. It was at night. You're not going, are you? I went, yeah, I'm going. I've never turned away from anything in my life. And so there was security there. Joe Platt turned up. She had a bodyguard because it's all gone a bit crazy. So you know me, I don't have rat speeches. I don't do. That's just me how I do it. I said, if I make a mistake, I make a mistake. You can shoot me, or hang me as the high sheriff. And I thought, so a couple of people spoke, and I thought, how am I going to kind of do this really? Because you don't want to be divisive. And I just went down the road of human beings, because that's the way I say it. We're all human beings, no matter what we are. And the lady who spoke, her grandfather came over as a 9-year-old on a boat to Southampton. All the rest of his family went to Auschwitz and got murdered. Now, I said to people in the audience, does that not resonate at the moment when people are coming over on boats and they're putting the kids on boats, knowing that they could actually lose their life?
Never see him again,
you know. So I'm glad you touched on it. I'm not going to go any further than that, but I think I think some people need to have that humanity back. For me, that's personally that way. So all the stuff you're doing in the community, you've seen what happens. I mean, across Greater Manchester, it's great. We had Andy on here, and Andy talks about all that. One of the reasons to set the podcast up was about social media abuse, because I want people to see the people. So whether they see Martinez or whether they like you, they don't like you, listen to the person. And when we did the first podcast with Andy, people came to me after and said, what a nice guy. When you meet Andy, Andy's a nice guy. What you see on TV, I mean, we're all politicians and we'll all say stuff, and that's life. But he's a genuinely nice guy. And that came across. So I think, if anything, it won that way. And that's what I've tried to do with everything, is kind of do that. You talk about religion a bit. You go to the church in Aspel, don't you? You used to do, didn't you?
I used to do. I don't actually go that often these days, I'm ashamed to say. I'm still very much Christian, but I go to any church. I don't really care whether it's Catholic, Methodist.
I know I'd seen you
absolutely
going
different
back.
places,
So Father Kevin.
Father
Kevin retires next year.
Does he really?
So I'm thinking of getting him on here.
Well, he's a lovely guy.
You can have a lot of banter with Father Kevin.
Absolutely, yeah. And Father Phil from St Joseph's Catholic Church in Wrightington, he's my chaplain as High Sheriff. And religion is very important to me, even though I'm not a massive churchgoer. I start every day with prayer. It's very important to me. It was the way I was brought up in a religious sort of family. Doesn't matter what religion it is, but it's partly how I deal with my demons, because we all have demons and stresses and strains. You know, it's very easy. People look at you, particularly if you've had some success, and think that life's a bowl of cherries. Well, I'm sorry. You know, we've all got concerns, illnesses, and trouble in the family or whatever. And that's just the reality of life, isn't it? And all the trouble in the world. So,
and we've had them conversations before,
we
haven't
have
we?
Indeed,
Personally,
Chris,
about stuff that you know everybody deals with, no matter who you are. But when I touch on Father Kevin, because I've known Father Kevin a long, long time, and he's a great guy. And you're probably more religious than I am, but that's it. A lot of our organisations are church-based. There is a church behind a lot of stuff that goes on, and they do gel the community together, whatever you believe in or not.
Absolutely. I think it's sad that sort of, you know, if you look at the Jewish community and the Muslim community, they are so committed. They really, really are, and it flows through to the community. And I think, dare I say it, if we have a problem, it's generalising, but you know there can very often be more problems with your average white person. You know what I mean? Because you know, particularly if they live in downtrodden areas and that, they haven't got very much of a barometer in terms of life. You know what I mean? And I think very often they're the people where we're finding more difficulty than necessarily with you know the Jews and the Muslims and whatever. With
So thanks for that, Martin. I mean, touching on kind of the world stuff and everything. And this afternoon, we've got a lady coming in from the Girls Club, which is the equivalent of Andy's Man's Club. Jessie's just set it up, so I've done some stuff with her recently. And it's really important, is it? Mental health's a big issue out there, and I think people in your roles and my role, we need to be kind of saying them kind of things, don't we? Because it doesn't matter who you are or what you are, and we've seen that, haven't we, around that. So thanks for raising that, but also thanks for the work that you're doing across our community. And like I said, in the last 5-6 years, it's really revved up in Wigan about the King's Honours and the Queen's Honours before that, and people going to the garden party. We talk about Gemma going to the garden party. I think she's got a personal relationship, hasn't she, with Edward? So
that's through the Duke of Edinburgh, though.
Let's
get that right.
But
that's
it's still
the
the
young
same.
people.
It's still the same thing as what they do, and everybody does that. And I was telling the story before. I don't know if Gemma ever told you this one. So I've done a bit of work at the Hamlet, and it's a really great place, and I talk about it quite a lot because it is one of our shining places. And when the Duke of Edinburgh died, they had a meeting upstairs. They probably told this, and they said, "We've got some really sad news today." So all the students were in there. Duke of Edinburgh died overnight, and they're all like, "Oh, yeah." Said, "Who do you think was going to replace the Duke of Edinburgh?" And this guy said, "Chris Reedy." So there we are.
You are a royal family.
So thanks for what you've said today. Thanks for what you've raised, but also what you're doing. And I know you'll carry on doing. And when your year's up, you'll be back into the DL role. Because I think it's so important for our groups, for our individuals, and for our community. And I know Dave Molyneux's worked closely. Me and Dave worked together for 30 years. So I know there's that. We've really got a good blend with council, everything.
Absolutely.
And Wigan is the success is because we all work together as one jigsaw. And we are who we are.
Yeah, we definitely work
Great
together.
partnership.
So thank you, guys. Here we are with Martin and Melanie, who are the representatives of the King, the Kings of Wigan today. We've had some really interesting discussions about lots of things. I think the conversation's spread out wide. But we've got Alicia from Wigan Elite College here. He's going to ask a few questions to our guests. So aware to you, Alicia, and the floor's yours.
How did you start your careers?
Me? Okay. I'm trying to think that far back, to be honest, Alicia. I'm one of those that just kind of fell into things. I'm one that didn't have... I wish I could say that when I left school I had this big career plan. I didn't. I really didn't. So I spent a couple of months working in an engineering company in their offices, and then they told me I really needed to get a proper job. So I know. So I applied for lots of jobs, and the first one who offered me a job was actually NatWest here in Wigan on Standish Gate. So I was in the Standish Gate NatWest. And then, like lots of us, I needed a bit more money, so decided I needed to get a bigger promotion. So I applied for another job in Liverpool and went to work for Gyrobank over in Liverpool for a bit. And when I was there, it was about 10 years, I really liked doing the special project work.
Yeah.
So I ended up going and working in management consultancy, which meant I got to do fantastic projects with amazing organisations all over the world for quite a long time. I did that for quite a long time. And then I had a spell working as head of organisational change for the Co-op group in Manchester. And that's when I met my husband. Because it was the only time I was at home. No, I was at home and I wanted my garden doing, and he does landscaping, gardening and handy person services, and somebody recommended him. So the standing joke is he came to do my garden. He never finished my garden, but 6 months later we were married. So I don't think he ever got paid either, Alicia, to be honest. So he didn't finish and he didn't get paid. So, and then way back in, must have been 2008, the end of 2008, we were heading into a big recession, and the consultancy I was working for closed down in the UK, and I set up my own business, and I've never looked back since.
What's your favourite part of doing that?
People. Always the people. So I work with charities and social enterprises and small businesses, and I help them to follow their passion and purpose and make a bigger profit, because it doesn't matter whether you're a charity or a business. With charities, the more money they can make, the more good they can do. So it's really, really important. But for me, it's always the people. I meet the most amazing people. And Chris knows, he thinks he can talk. There's nothing compared to me. I'm being very good on here.
No,
very good.
How did you start your career?
As I said previously, I left school at 15. Father had a scrap metal business. Myself and my two of my brothers in my early 20s set a crane hire business up, and we grew that then over the next 30 years into being the biggest crane business in the UK. Sold that in 2007. I've got 5 children, so then set up what's now known as the Ainsco Group of companies. So we've got 3 different businesses in that now run and owned by my children. I'm thankfully retired. I set a charitable trust up and did Wigan Youth Zone, did some funding for Chorley Youth Zone and lots of different charities, hospices and all sorts of different things. I was very, very fortunate to be invited to become a deputy lieutenant, and then I was very fortunate to be awarded a CBE by Her Majesty the Queen in 2016, and then now I've got the High Sheriff's role. So after this, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do.
You're going to go back to being a deputy lieutenant
I'm
again.
going
You're
back
to go
to
out
being-
and get all those community groups.
I'm going to have to be working for Melanie
So if
again.
that's what you call retirement, I don't think it's sat watching daytime TV, is it?
I think I'm going to have to up my game, I think, aren't I?
What has been like your biggest like challenges like to get where you are now?
Great question. I think it's feel the fear but do it anyway. So, as I said, I never planned for anything. So all of my jobs have really kind of come about by almost like chance. But it's always been that bit about if the opportunity's there, however scary it is, step through the door. So I was on a train and there was a man talking about the work he was doing. He was very upset. He'd missed his train and he was on the phone. But the thing was that he worked for the rival company to mine, and he was just giving away their entire strategy.
So
around.
was he a Wigan?
No, he wasn't. He was he was on the wrong train, Chris. That was the whole point. He had to get off. Anyway, to get off a crew and change. But he talked all the way home, and he just basically kind of dismissed me. I was just kind of sat there, opposite him, and I kept getting him a cup of tea when they came around with the tea because he was obviously really upset. And when he got to the end, he sort of said, "Oh, I'm really sorry if I've been a bit noisy." And I went, "Well, it's been fascinating because I work for your competitor, and I'm actually on that bids team." And he went, "Oh, well, I better offer you a job then, hadn't I?" And I'm like, And he said, "I guess you're going to name your price, aren't you?" And I went,
That was a good move.
It was a good move.
Good train journey.
But I think that's, a great example. I wasn't looking for another job. That opportunity arose. Now, I could have just said no to it, but I explored it and then ended up working for him. And the reality is, if I hadn't ended up working for him, then I would never have ended up at my next role. And if I hadn't have ended up at the next role, I'd never met my husband. So you see, it all kind of comes together. But I think it's that feel the fear. You know, it's scary. Anything new is scary. So if people said, will you go and give that talk? I was so scared. But I would go, yeah, I'll do it. You know, can you do this special project? Yeah, I'll do it. Can you go and do this for us? Yeah, I'll do it. And I think it's that learning to say, you have to learn to say no too, but learning to say yes, even when it really scares you.
Yeah. How about you? What were your biggest challenges?
Biggest challenges? Well, obviously, you know, like anything in life, you know, you learn. When I first started in business, as I say, with my father, then I went on my own with the cranes and set another business up as well. And you know, you do mistakes along the way. It's not all plain sailing. I set up a shop glassing and painting company that went bust in 1981. But you actually learn more from your mistakes. So I think if you said, you know, what was the biggest learning, I think the biggest thing that I would say is that people used to say to me that I worry too much. And that's the worst thing you can ever say to me now, because I always say, because I worry, I don't have to worry. And so, you know, I it's about backing yourself really, and also more than anything, and Melanie touched on it, it's all about people. You know, I recruited the most wonderful people, you know, who were far clever at their job. Recruit people who are better than you are at your particular job. And if you put the right team of people and you reward them, look after them, and value them genuinely, and not just have a mission statement on a wall, you know, I had the most wonderful people, and if I'm proud of anything, I'm proud of the amount of people over the years that worked for us that ended up with, through their own hard work, with very, very good lives, good livings. Some of them are now millionaires and set up in businesses on their own, and I'm immensely proud and still friends with all of them.
Do you guys have any advice for young people who are wanting to get higher?
Take every opportunity you possibly can. Yeah. Volunteer for everything. So I was a volunteer from the age of 14, and it's really funny how it comes full cycle. So when I was 14, I went to volunteer in a school for young people with additional needs. And Martin knows where I'm going with this, and Chris knows where I'm going with this. So at 14, I'm there. It was run by Catholic nuns, interestingly enough, over in Ormskirk. And I volunteered there, and that kind of started my volunteering journey. But I learnt so much through volunteering and sort of taking all of those opportunities to say, be the best at everything that you do. It doesn't matter what you're doing. I've been a waitress, I've been a chambermaid, I've been a barmaid, I've done all of those jobs. Be the absolute best you can possibly be at it. And the reason why they're smiling is I am now an extremely proud nana to a 15-year-old autistic grandson. And that grounding when I was 14 in understanding how to work with young people with additional needs has come in extremely useful. And he's actually today over in the Disc College. I don't know if anyone knows that in Manchester. That's the digital college in Manchester. He's very, very talented animator, even at 15. So he's off doing that today.
How about you?
I think I would say to you, I think there is a danger, and I'm probably going to be a little bit controversial, so forgive me. I think there's a concern that, you know, that sometimes people can, you know, let me use a ridiculous example. Someone could say to me, you know, you can be anything you want to be. You can be, you know, well, I'm sorry, I can't be an opera singer because I can't sing. I can't play football. I certainly can't box. And you know, and I could never be an accountant because I'm, you know, even though I can read a balance sheet now, I'm more interested in the bottom line than anything else. So I think what I would say is try and understand what your strengths are. When I look back at my own personal journey, I, as I said earlier, I was not a confident kid. I was shy. And, you know, I soon realised that I was not the best guy to go knocking on doors trying to get business. So I recruited a very good salesman. My skill, I think, if anything, if I have a skill, is delegation and organisation. And I'm fanatical about things being organised and planned properly. And so I soon realised, some people's worst fear is sitting in an office with a telephone all day. And I used to have 3 telephones going at the same time before emails and all the rest of it, and taking notes. And it was like the stock exchange. And instead of doing, my ambition with every crane was, instead of doing 1 job a day, I wanted to do 3 or 4 jobs a day with every crane, maximise the revenue. And that's the way we became successful. So I would say, look at your own strengths, know what you're good at, know what you're comfortable with, and then go for that. No, don't go for something that's out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, thank you.
I think one phrase, and I don't know if you was there, I think Dave Whelan was doing a speech here to the students, and somebody said to him, "Have you been lucky?" And Dave said, "Well, if I'd worked luck, I've been lucky."
Yeah.
And I think you've got to make your own way sometimes.
You do, but I do think in life there is always an element of luck. Something you can control. You're right. The harder you work, the luckier you get, and all that sort. And that's very true. We also need luck, because at the end of the day, there are so many things that can go wrong that are out of your control, and it's about how you deal with it and cope with it and move forward and adjust accordingly.
So can I thank Melanie and Martin? I think you've been open and frank, and I think hopefully we've put the Cavs on the radar of more people and what goes on behind the scenes. I want to thank Alicia for the questions.
Thank you,
They
Alicia.
were great questions, Alicia.
Thank
I think
you.
we've had a good royal debate today. It's like the royal family come to Wigan.
Absolutely. No, the Jim Royal, you mean?
Jim Royal, that's the one. But thank you. Thanks for coming and carrying on doing what you're doing.
Pleasure.
And supporting and working together.
Yeah. Thank you for the invitation.
No problem. This has been Reading Willing Podcast. It's our latest episode. We've had a royal glint into what goes on. So thank you to these guys, and look forward to the next episode.